What's up, Robert?
You're muted. I don't know if that's on us or you.
I see a raised hand and a mute.
Unmute.
There it is.
Okay.
We are.
How y'all doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Good, good. I'm nervous now that I'm on air with you guys.
Man,
Don't be nervous.
so important.
Maybe I should just type my question, but
Oh, you're good.
this is a dumb question, man. Sometimes when I use the feature to call the owners, I get bad numbers, and I didn't know if it was any way possible that those numbers could somehow be. Like I said, it's probably a dumb question, but to have a better percentage of.
Yeah. So I'm happy to just speak to it, and there's a chance, obviously, that Max might talk to skip tracing in general. We're going to be in the 60 to 70% range typically for number accuracy.
Okay.
We, by definition, have access to what's called unregulated data, and it's just that is data that's essentially not pulled from credit reports. It's pulled from a variety of sources of companies and data providers that are crisscrossing names and addresses and all that to try to find contact information for the individuals that are out there. And so most of the bulk providers that are on the unregulated spectrum are going to be in that range, basically.
Okay.
The best way to get to drastically increase that accuracy is going to be trying to go for like a TLO or a LexisNexis. They can get to more like the 85 to 95% range on accuracy. It's a much more stringent process. Like those aren't just like going to their website and signing up and having their service rather. There's a whole process you have to go through to get that information, to get that availability of that technology. And unless you're really like a landlord, in addition to being an investor, there's a good chance they tell you no and that you can't use their data access, because they have regulated data which comes from credit reports and like is a government. It's called regulated because it's literally government regulated. So it's a little bit deeper. And so what I tell people, we're going to be in that 60 to 70% range. There's a few things of like the coming year that we'll be doing to try to increase that percentage a little bit here and there. What I would say too, I mean, I don't know what kind of volume are you skip tracing at right now?
It's not a large enough volume to even put out there, man. It's like 100 records,
Okay. But if you have like 100 records that you're looking up, I mean, obviously we love for you to keep doing stuff in DealMachine, but if you've got like 100 records, I mean, Max runs REI skip, and they're going to be like 15 to 20 cents a record. I don't know their exact pricing.
It's 15, I think.
Yeah, so it's 15, then that'll be a little bit of a cheaper option for you, and you can just export the list. And I think he said they're not doing, they're at least introductory rate, they're not doing any minimum to do those lookups at that cheaper rate. So that might be a good backup if ours doesn't work on the spot, to just go ahead and export everything and try with REI skip.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you so much.
And it's not a dumb question, Robert. We get asked that all the time, and it's not dumb. It's totally understandable.
Right, and it's definitely like I totally get the frustration. Like if you're like, especially you're spending, hey, this is 49 cents, or the 80 cents, 90, whatever plan that you're on for the deal. Yep. It's like, hey, like I paid money for this, and if the numbers aren't right, it kind of sucks. It's just a matter of, and that's why I really try to focus on educating people on like just that skip tracing process and regulated data versus unregulated data and how that all works. Because I think the more you understand it, the more you understand why it's not always going to be the right number. And I'm definitely not saying I'm that full expert in that whole space. Max probably knows more than I do on that. But obviously happy to speak to it as best we can and just kind of give you as transparent of an answer as we can of where we're going to be on accuracy percentages.
You should ask Robert, maybe later when Max gets on, ask him what he thinks about that.
Okay, thank y'all so much.
Thanks, Robert. Hey guys, we're up to 26 people.
We are.
5-minute countdown too.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Oh, did I just freeze or? Oh, looks like I just froze.
Did you? Oh,
Hello?
you did. You did. That's a great shot. Oh, there you are.
Did I just stop or did you? Was that me?
You
That
froze.
was-
Okay. I'm as close as possible as I can get to my internet. So.
Are you on the floor? No,
What?
you're on the bar. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm on an island. 1 second.
Can we all just look at how beautiful Josh's place is? I said, can we all just look at how beautiful Josh's place is?
Yeah, these are my windows.
Hannah and I are sitting on our couches, Obvi.
I thought of it on the couch. I like the background more if I sit here.
I
Yeah.
agree. This is more boring.
Gives me better posture.
Extremely boring.
Yeah, stool like this.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Way to take time tonight to invest in yourself by being on here.
Agreed.
I thought you were going to pop your collar for a minute. I was going to be like, damn, we're bringing it back.
Okay, like no.
Well, you got the pink shirt on. Like, you never know.
I guess so.
Hey, Anna Marie.
Oh. Where is everyone coming from tonight?
Yeah, shout out where you're at. I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Me too.
Raleigh, North Carolina, as I mentioned earlier.
Hi, Kelsey. Houston.
Baltimore. I like all these people from all over.
Oh,
Whoa.
Central Florida, but originally from New York. Champaign. Did you go to Illinois? Are you an Illini fan, Abdul? Salt Lake, Tampa, Columbus. People are jumping in here.
Yeah, they are.
Like
Look
it.
at all these people investing in their time, investing in themselves. Richmond, LA. Dang, it's what time is it there? It's almost 4:00 in California. No?
No, it's almost 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, correct. Kansas. We already knew Kansas. Where Kansas is it? I assume there's probably a good chance it's Wichita, or Fort.
Hello, Erica.
Big military base there.
Leavenworth.
I don't-
Collinsville, Oklahoma.
I'm from St. Louis originally, so I know a little bit.
Ugh. Erica's in Philly. Sorry, I always like doing melodic. San Antonio. The capital.
All right.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I just bought my friend a New Orleans cooking book. She wanted it for Cajun cooking.
Yum.
She better be making some good food for me sometime.
Up to 42 participants.
You
Great.
guys, thanks so much for coming on. And let's give a huge shout out to David and Hannah for, keeping us up to date and making some awesome graphics. Hannah does all the awesome graphics. I'm sorry. I'm just so blown away. Yesterday when I was on our Instagram story, I was just like, whoa, like these look so legit.
We're trying to up our game in the communication front to keep you guys aware these a little bit further in advance than about 10 hours like we were before.
Well, yeah, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and really all the places if you want to know what they're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, all the places. We've got oh crap. I forgot your handle, Hannah. The Green Darling. The Green Darling. We got Joshua Johnson T.
Don't worry about the handle. I don't talk, guys. I don't talk. I'm not.
You're right. You tag him in anything in Instagram, he will never see it.
No, I see it. I get the push notification, and I'll like it almost every time, as long as it's a good tag.
If it's a good tag, y'all better be tagging real good then.
Right.
If Cajun music, Swamp Soul Band, dude, I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna highlight that and save that. I feel like that will be my jam tomorrow while I'm cleaning. Where else is everyone from? Right now, we're just doing shout outs where you're at. We have 59 people. Welcome, welcome. This is the DealMachine team. We're here.
Can you text Max?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Also, I'm gonna hop off so that I can
All right.
start doing things. So
Cool.
Thank you all for joining us, and we can't wait to start the chat.
Rema, I see, or is it Rema or Rema? I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm going to be in Charlotte speaking like December 12th. I think it's a Friday. I'm going to the speaking. It's like a 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. type thing, a coffee thing that someone does every week or every month or so. So I'll have us share out details about that if you want to be there. I forget the exact part of Charlotte.
Also, I actually just got a text that says we have just a 15-minute delay. So while we have a 15-minute delay, maybe we could start answering a few other questions.
Yeah. Jumping questions. Sounds like Max is busy. As you guys know, Max is always busy. So we will, answer your shoot some questions to us. Is there anything at all relevant that you guys are curious on the Deal Machine front, real estate investing? We will answer as transparently and honestly as we can. If I don't know the answer to something, we will tell you that too.
Max is coming though, so just so you know, just hold on with us. We're really entertaining and we're full of knowledge.
If there's no gross rental income since 2012, how will I calculate the net operating income to get cap rate for my market? So I'm assuming you're mentioning that of a specific property. So it just sounds like, was it just like owner occupied in the meantime, or was it vacant? I'm guessing are the two things that this property, the situation it was in, it was vacant. So basically, what you need to do is what is market rent for the property in fixed up rent ready condition. So really, that's all you're doing is basically saying what is rent condition. What is the rental market? What is the market rate for rentals for properties like that in the area? And then you're basically saying like the net operating income is going to be that less property taxes and taxes on the income itself. Because assuming you're going to have the renters take care of like utilities and things like that. And so the biggest thing is just look at comps in the area. What are other things rent for nearby, and just use that as what the rental income potential is. Reach out to people who have rentals listed on Zillow in the area, because chances are those are active investors who understand the rental market locally to where that property is, and they can make a better assessment on that. And they could be like your buyers essentially too.
We got, what is the first step a newbie should focus on within Deal Machine?
Yep. What I'm going to say, Shantia, is step one should be analyze like what is your realistic budget to put towards marketing? Because I occasionally have some people say, hey, like I've got $0 or $50 a month. And guess what? Deal Machine starts at $50 a month. So chances are we're not the best choice for you to start if you only have $50 a month to put towards marketing, especially if you're planning on doing direct mail. You just don't have the budget to support the consistency it's going to take to get the ROI that you're hoping for. And so what I tell people, go driving for dollars yourself. Use Deal Machine if that $50 is not preventative of you doing everything else it takes in the marketing side. If you can't use Deal Machine, most of the ownership records are all public record. You know who owns the property. You can find that information online. You can find their information. You can do free versions of skip tracing without paid services. You can go to Free People Search, True People Search, a couple other ones I'm not thinking of right now. And so you can get all this information, like the tools and technologies that we are, and like REI Skip that Max has, like their processes to speed up the process of getting batch lists of these properties a lot faster and get in front of a lot more owners a lot more quickly. But if you're just starting out, it starts with analyzing where your budget is. Because again, if it's low enough, that's really the process I recommend. It's like maybe still use Deal Machine. We are going to save you a ton of time in that process, but maybe not, just depending on your scenario. If you're diving in, you've got like a couple $100 a month to put towards marketing on top of the Deal Machine technology fee. I would say go out, go drive, analyze if you have the time or not yourself to cold call. Cold call is going to get you results faster and a little bit cheaper than doing the direct mail. But if you don't have the time to do the actual cold calling consistently, which obviously if you're working full-time jobs or something like that, it might be more difficult to come by that time on top of the driving. And so I tell people, like really analyze those things personally, and figure out where you're going to have a chance of winning in your scenario. And so that could be with mail if you've got the budget to put towards 3 mailers for the first 200 to 400 properties. It could be if you've got the time to cold call and track the numbers down, you can do it a lot more economically on the financial side, just with more of your time. So that's a roundabout answer. But honestly, I try to give people an answer that's relevant to them. And so it really does depend a little bit on what is your scenario, because that's going to influence how I tell people to start. Contact that I had for properties that return mail and vacant for absentee that you could do a deep skip trace. AmericanTracers.com. That was for a question earlier. I can't see the name, it's hidden. AmericanTracers.com, they can do a deep skip trace and they can find like 4 or 5 closest relatives, their own contact information, all that kind of stuff. So definitely take a look at American Tracers. It's going to cost you like $5 or $10 for each lookup for a deeper skip trace. But it's going to be a lot of really actionable data for you to use. I was talking earlier about regulated data versus unregulated data. People who are like private investigators and American Tracers, for example, they're using regulated data. So the accuracy and the depth of the information that they can get access to is far greater than what unregulated data can access. And it costs more because of that, but it's going to give you a lot of really actionable stuff to get. How do you start virtually wholesaling? It's a really big question. I mean, I think the biggest thing is really foundationally starting just like you would anywhere is who are you going to market to? If you're talking about through DealMachine, it's like who on the ground is going to go driving for dollars for you to find those opportunities. Obviously, you could go the list purchasing route and things like that and send mail and do the skip tracing and calling. But really, in context of DealMachine, it's finding someone local that's going to help do the driving for you, whether you're paying them hourly per property or if you're bringing them in as like more of an acquisition manager role and sharing a percentage of the deals that they're helping you find and garner. That would be kind of foundationally starting. I don't think virtually wholesaling is really that materially different from a starting point than doing it yourself, except if you're not on the ground, you have to have someone on the ground doing the driving for you. Like, for example, if you're driving for dollars and using DealMachine. Erica, CMX, I'm not sure what CMX means, or multifamily properties. I think that goes back to the vacant rental. Again, it's just a matter of what does it rent for? Like, what is market rate rent? If it was in rental condition and people were renting the property currently, what is that going to rent for? And that's going to be your net operating income for people to operate off of. And then you need to also understand what's the present state of the property and how much money needs to go into renovating it to get it to the point that it's rental ready. But that's really your process. It's understanding what it's going to be renting for. And then that's how I would lead in that conversation, is saying, hey, this is, whether it's an apartment building or just like a duplex or triplex, it's basically, hey, like there's it's worth $180,000 fixed up. It's going to rent for $1,000 a month per unit. And so it's $3,000 a month income, but it needs $20,000 worth of work to get there. And so it's really just a matter of building the process of what's the current value, what's the rental income potential, how much do you need to get to the point that you can rent it, and how long will that take? A little bit, knowing that will be helpful too. When will we have data in Puerto Rico? Great question. I don't know the answer to that. Honestly, Elise, I don't know if you can take a note on that and try to answer that later on.
The Puerto Rico?
The Puerto Rico one, yeah. I just don't know the answer to that, to be honest. If we don't have it now, chances are it's not going to be soon.
I was going to say, I don't think that's anything that's been talked about in the works right now. I know people have been asking through chat, but right now it's just not on not really on the to-do list at the moment.
Yep. Typical number of properties per hour of drive time. It does depend on the area that you're in. I coach and tell people through on the enterprise side, especially because we talk to a lot of people who are like hiring people to do this for them. 15 and 20 is a very reasonable range. I've gotten as many as 32 in an hour, driving a really targeted, good, dense area of qualified properties for this, with pictures. If I was just pinning the properties and not taking the photos and then just using the Google Street View instead, I've gotten as many as 73 in an hour, I believe the number was. I think reasonable rates, if you're hiring someone, or just on averages, 15 to 20 is the range that you could be doing. If you're paying someone per hour, I would say give them a quota of 15 qualified properties per hour. If they hit 22 in the hour, give them an extra $2 an hour or something like that. Is just an idea to kind of treat that. Legal restrictions for wholesaling with licensed realtors like yourself. There are. Your best answer is talk to your local brokerages on how you want to go about doing that. I'm not the expert in that. I tell people, typically the people that I have spoken with who are realtors doing wholesaling and traditional listing and flipping and things like that, as long as their marketing is clear that they're operating from the perspective of an investor and not as an agent, and then they're doing the wholesaling actually in an LLC and not in their personal name. Typically, I've seen that that's how they go about making sure that all their items are buttoned up on that front. But again, your best bet is talk to someone who's doing it successfully in your area and ask them how they go about doing it. Is it easy to sign up with American Tracers from earlier? Yeah, I check out. Oh, it looks like Chris from American Tracers might be in here. So yeah, American Tracers is easy to sign up for. Go to americantracers.com. Literally just, they've made some changes in the last few months. When I was doing it, it was literally like just purchase a property report, and it was just an e-commerce checkout. Here's the address. And then within a day or two, they gave you the info. So definitely take a look at them. David actually got it. We met them at a conference in Asheville, North Carolina about 1.5 years ago. David had his house that was vacant next to one of his other rentals in Indianapolis. A tree had fallen through the roof of it. And he was like, I've DealMachined him. I've called him. I've done everything I can. I cannot find this owner. He helped David find an email address for the daughter of the person that owned it. She responded within like an hour, and he ended up getting the property, and now it's an active rental for him. So again, it's just a success story that David had in particular, tracking an owner down, going that extra mile. You might see me talk about going the extra mile a couple times throughout this. I think the biggest thing that a lot of investors don't always do, especially early stage investors, is like people who are successful in the space are doing things that other people aren't. Just by definition, a lot of people are doing the easiest things to get deals. And so the people that, if you're not getting results as fast as you want, or doing the things that people are telling you to, think about what other people are not yet doing. And go that extra mile. So that deeper skip trace is an example of that. Maybe it's doing the deeper skip trace and calling like 3 or 4 of the closest relatives to really track that owner down, especially when these are opportunities that would look like a home run. Like the more you guys drive, or if you've already been driving, you guys can tell the difference between like, hey, this is an opportunity that's like a driving for dollars lead, not necessarily a home run, but it's clearly distressed and not being properly taken care of. And then occasionally you'll come across something that's like, that is in a great area. Something is clearly wrong. It looks like it might even be recently went wrong, and we've got to do something with it. Go the extra mile on those properties that look like home run opportunities early on, because those are definitely where and when I recommend jumping in.
It's the man, the myth, the legend. Oh,
Hey,
looking
guys.
stylish as ever. Oh my gosh.
Sorry, a little
Oh,
late,
you're fine.
guys.
Where are you at? I like this background. This is a new place?
This is the new set in my studio. Yeah.
Okay.
We were recording a pilot for a new show that we were doing, and so sorry to everybody that's on here, all hundreds of you. I apologize.
No worries at all. Thank you for jumping in. I appreciate you coming on a Friday night here. I mean,
Absolutely. I actually got 2 tycoons with me too. I got Antoine Campbell from DC, and then I got Chris. So we were actually just shooting something. So you're gonna have more firepower on this show than just myself.
I love it. Well, yeah, I was just telling this. We were just answering some Q&A as was designed. So we were just going through some stuff just now. But if you guys, now that Max is here, if you got additional questions that you guys want to jump in here and continue to ask, definitely happy and excited to go through stuff with these guys that are better experts than I. So I answer questions as best I can, but these guys are going to be able to do better. Let's go through some. I'm trying to pick up where I left off with the last questions. I'm curious, can you guys see questions on your side?
Let's see. Yeah, I can just put up the chat box here. I don't know where we are with it, but oh, yeah, here we are.
Yeah. Let's see. First deal, I'm looking for a cash buyer. Here's a kind of good thing to lead us off with. I'm working. Sean McLeod says, I'm working on my first deal, looking for a cash buyer. What's the best way to find a quick one?
My question would be, do you actually have a deal already? I would not focus on going out and getting cash buyers. I know a lot of people say that, but when you actually have a true deal, when you have something that is actually a deal, buyers are all over the place.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think the over time you'll find yourself ending up in, everyone will end up in some sort of contract that just isn't a deal, and you get the feedback real quick when buyers are either they're not responding to you reaching out to them, or they just straight up tell you like, hey, like this isn't something I can work with, and so you learn a lot from that process. So
yeah, buyers are fairly easy to find. I have several videos on exactly how to do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a good method, is once you actually have something, you do it.
Yep. I mean, because if you literally walk up to someone and say, hey, you can spend 70,000 and then make an extra 30,000, would you do that? And if your deal's legit, they're going to say yes a lot of the time.
All day long.
Question from a different Sean. How do you come up with a purchase price on a wholesale property? A little more context. I see wholesalers selling homes with hardly any margins. Are they really selling them? For example, a guy the other day was selling one for 75K, said 5K rehab, ARV 105K, and rehab was nowhere near 5K according to Pix. So yeah, I think, I guess my first reaction there would just be, I think some people aren't always the best at really analyzing rehab and ARV, and as well as what they're asking for the property. And sometimes people think they're going to negotiate down from where they start asking. What I would say a lot of times I see, and Max, I'm curious on this, I think when you price things aggressively on the front end, good buyers will come in and offer oftentimes more than you're asking because they want to lock up a good deal. I don't know if, I guess in general, if you could talk to a little bit about your pricing strategy on a wholesale deal, I think that'd be the most relevant answer there.
Yeah. So my actual price that I throw out there in the beginning is actually lower than I really want, knowing that I'm just going to get the actual interest in everybody that wants to see that property up. And then once I can get more than a few people interested, then that investor testosterone kicks in, and they're going to pay more than what I usually want for the property. But I can't really speak to somebody that ran the numbers wrong,
right,
and put a deal out there. I mean, there's dumb people everywhere.
That's going to happen for sure. Someone said, I'm brand new. Can someone break down what exactly is a due diligence fee?
Yeah, I mean, I'll do it. But one thing I want to say before I answer this question, and don't take this the wrong way, when you have questions like that, use the resources that are available to you without having to wait to get that question answered. But since we are in a Q&A format, I will answer it. But simply what I mean is Google a due diligence fee. And simply what a due diligence fee is something that you pay when you have the contract signed. So for example, on each contract that I conduct, I put down a minimum of, and usually always, $100 due diligence fee. And what this does is allows me, and in my contract, I put 10 days. So I have 10 days worth of due diligence in order to inspect this property and also see if I can find any interested buyers. But by paying that fee, I actually have a legal out to that property. So no contingency upon partner's approval or anything like that. I simply say, I am buying these 10 days for $100. And if things don't check out, I'm going to tell you within those 10 days that I'm not going to purchase the property, or I can go back and renegotiate it with it. And that's standard across any real estate transaction. So I just sold a property today that I had, that I did a rehab on, and then I held on for a little while. It was a property that I sold for $137,000, I believe. And the due diligence fee was $300. So you can see I'm not way off or anything like that. And this was actually purchased with a realtor that was on the MLS. So me putting $100 is pretty reasonable for a house that is fully remodeled with a realtor. They're sending out $300 due diligence checks.
Okay, cool. That's I think that's good to know the difference, like seeing stuff on the market as well as stuff that's wholesaling and just knowing that that's pretty close. Zach asks, do you have a favorite cold calling software that you like using? And I guess a little bit as a follow-up to that, I'd say, can you speak a little bit to about your cold calling processes for your teams that you guys follow?
I'll let Antoine answer that because he does a lot of cold calling, and I do too, but I know he uses a lot of virtual staff, so he has some tools and stuff.
Yeah, cool. So we use call tools and we use Mojo in combination. We use Mojo because we like it, but call tools we use it because it's a little more affordable. Because we have multiple agents calling. So it depends. I think it's a preference thing, but if you have virtual people like in the Philippines, definitely Mojo over call tools, just because call tools you have to be hardwired in. And some VAs, they like to use Wi-Fi connection.
Okay. And so you use a lot of virtual people to do this. Are you wholesaling virtually on top of that in multiple markets, or is it one primary market for you?
Multiple markets.
Most of your home office, you said?
No, multiple markets.
Multiple markets, yeah.
Multiple markets. Okay. Awesome.
So he's in the DC area. He's in the Virginia area. He's in the Pennsylvania area.
South Carolina, Charlotte, and a little bit of Ohio. We're starting to really double down on Ohio.
Awesome. So before you guys got on, a couple of people were asking a lot about virtual wholesaling, which I think is like a really trendy question to ask in these types of environments. Could you speak to a little bit like how to ramp up like a virtual wholesaling initiative and where you would recommend starting for somebody?
Yeah, I just say get comfortable with whatever market you want to go. Like my tip is the way we do it is when we want to open up a market, we check a software called Sweet Spot Locator. And within that Sweet Spot Locator, it shows us like different zip codes that we can wholesale in or we can hotel in. And then we take that data and then we transfer it over to pulling our list. And the beautiful thing about the Sweet Spot Locator, they show you how many bedrooms, bathrooms that people are buying. And we pull our list real granular so we know exactly where we need to be at.
Okay, awesome. I think that's some really good actionable stuff for someone to follow. Like literally just do X, Y, Z and boom, you're in a new market. All right, let's see.
Sweet Spot Locator is what he said, Erica. Sweet Spot Locator.
Yeah, you can go to, I'm not affiliated with them, but you can go to buyersonfire.com and sign up for a free trial.
Buyersonfire.com.
Mm-hmm.
Buyers on Fire. All right.
Elise,
Elise or Hannah, can you guys type that in there? One question people are asking on postcards or just in your marketing in general, using local phone numbers versus like a toll-free number to be able to tackle multiple markets.
Yeah.
How do you guys?
Don't be cheap. Yeah, don't be cheap with that. So if you're going to be using multiple, if you're going to be in multiple markets, then you need to be using multiple local phone numbers. Exactly. People are more, I would say more likely to answer a local phone number than a number that is not from their area. And with CallRail, I believe you can get 10 numbers for around $30 to $40 maybe.
Yeah.
So if you're in more than 10 markets, then you probably need to slow down if you can't afford that anyways. Sure. So I see somebody somebody says they have a property under contract now that they want to sign for $585. The ARV is 2.2 million to 2.4 million. You mentioned that it was easy to find buyers. Do you have a specific strategy when you use to find buyers? So Veronica, here's what I'm going to say about a property like that. The numbers are great. If your numbers are true, what you're saying, you're actually great depending on what the rehab is. My problem with dealing with properties that are that expensive is that the buyer pool of people that are going to buy is very, very small. So where the sweet spot that we love to deal with is houses that usually sell in our medium price range. If I know the ARV in my area is 150 to 160, like as far as the medium price home, that means in my area, everybody that can qualify for a loan is going to get that. So for me, I love when ARVs are around 125 to 160. Those are perfect for us because we know that every person that is applying and qualified for a house can get a loan for that. So that housing that you're doing, and you even think about this, there's so many realtors out there in the world, right? But there's only this many realtors to deal with high-end properties. And that's because there's this many buyers that actually buy high-end properties. So to be able to afford a $1.4 million property, you have to have an income of the top 1% of all Americans. So basically your buyer pool is going to be way, way smaller because your prices are very, very high.
Yep. Yeah. Like for a lot of people who are flipping homes, like it might be someone only doing like 1 to 3 a year. And like, they might be able to tackle those ones where it's 50K purchased, 40K in, and then sell for 130. They like buyers like myself, like I could not take down a property like that. Even if the numbers look great, I'm just like, I just don't have a way to go about doing that.
I would never flip a property like that. I'm looking to purchase a property for my residence for that price, but I would never flip a property for that.
Right. Especially because your holding costs could end up being dramatic while you're waiting to sell it.
Very crazy.
Mm-hmm.
On the market, take like
Yeah, and
months.
then your average days on the market
6 to 8 months to sell a house.
is like 8 months for a house that much.
Right.
So to make that a deal, I'd buy it for $250,000 if you give it to me. Less than $250,000 in rehab too.
Juan has a good question about approaching sellers when you know it's like a really competitive process with other wholesalers or people trying to buy the property.
I mean, just be you. I mean, you can't force somebody to work with you. You just got to go in there and deal with it. I mean, think about the reverse aspect is if you went to a car lot. There are many car lots usually around a car lot. So that person is just going to be themselves and see if that they're the fit for you. You're not going to win all these deals. You just have to build a great rapport so the person likes doing business with somebody they like, and you're going to be good. Other than that, I wouldn't really too much worry about the competition side of things.
Yeah, focus on the deal.
Focus on the deal itself. Get the numbers that make sense that you know you can sell the property, and don't offer more because you're so eager to get your deal.
Right. I think that's excellent advice. I think everyone's going to end up in competitive scenarios at some point or another, and just basically saying, is it going to be worth my time? If I like go all the way up price as far as I can, is it going to be then worth my time trying to wholesale it? Probably no. So like, be true to yourself. Say, hey, this is the offer that I can make on it. Try to win the deal with rapport, not win the deal with the price. And then that give you a much better chance of just that deal being valuable to you in the end as a wholesaler.
Somebody's asking about assignment contracts and stuff like that. I have some contracts. Ralphie, if you go follow my Instagram, I'm doing a 30-day challenge. If you follow the steps, watch the videos, they're less than a minute a piece. So even if you watched all of it in one day, which is not even up, you'd be less than 30 minutes. In one of those videos, I tell you where to exactly go to get contracts that you can start modifying. Somebody asked, can tax delinquent properties be wholesaled? Absolutely. Any property in this world can be wholesale.
Yep.
Regardless if you're in a tax lien state or tax deed state. Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No, you're good. I didn't know that last point at all either, or the difference or potential difference between the two anyway. So I appreciate that. Let's see. As a would you recommend instruction? So a couple of people have asked kind of, and I think to your point, the 30-day startup challenge that you're doing right now is probably the best place to start. They're asking how to go about organizing their day-to-day schedule, organizing their priorities on like driving for dollars, skip tracing and calling, mailing and things like that. And so again, what I would say is go do this 30-day challenge because it's going to give you everything that you need. But any like more general comment you or any three of you guys would comment on that, on like just like if someone's just starting out, how to prioritize?
So one piece of advice I like to give people is most people when we're starting out, we got, a regular 9 to 5, right? So when you got a regular 9 to 5, you wake up in the morning and your first thought, or one of your first thought is making sure that you make it to work by 9 o'clock, right? And you're intentional about making sure that you do that. When it comes to managing time in your business and how you go about driving for dollars or placing bandit signs or making cold calls, you've got to have that same type of intent. So the same way that you make sure you get to work at 9 o'clock and you're not late, you have to manage and hold yourself accountable in your business the exact same way. So if you get off at 5 o'clock, so hey, look, I've got from 6 p.m. once I get home until 8:30 to make phone calls and cold call, you've got to make sure that every day you're on that dialer at 6 o'clock and starting to hammer out those phone calls. But you really got to have some accountability for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You got to do the same urgency as if you had a 9 to 5. You got to be able to have that same discipline and urgency with yourself as well.
Be consistent about it. Don't wait. Don't do it once a week because you're not going to see no results. So try to do it 4 or 5 days out the week. Push through the hard times. Even if you work a 12-hour shift, come home and get that energy just as much as you'll get to your business that you gave to that W-2 job.
Yep. I think one of the things I see really frequently, like people also don't realize, like it's a large sacrifice of other things that you like doing with your time to go about building out a wholesale business, a business of any kind, regardless of what the business is, but it's going to be a sacrifice. Like to be successful, if you're working a 9 to 5 or even longer hours than that already in like a job, it means you're probably not going to have weeknights to go hang out with friends or weekends to watch football right now or anything. Like you're sacrificing that to build the business. And if you're not willing to do that, chances are you're not going to be successful, just really blatantly, honestly. And so be ready to make those sacrifices.
Josh, look what you're doing. It's Friday night and you're fine tuning the business that you're a part of. And that's the sacrifices that people make to be successful. It's Friday night for us. Both of these people are out of state. They're here and we're talking real estate for the last 24 hours. So this is like something that you really have to be passionate about. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not something that is so easy that anybody can do it. But if you just simply have discipline and you follow instructions well, and you do mundane tasks every single day, you'll be surprised on the results you'll get. And it's not something you're going to get overnight. Now, there's people that's got deals in less than a month, but sometimes it's going to take a while. But anytime you decide to give up or you decide to that this is not working, you really have to look inward to yourself and say, how many days have I been driving for dollars? How many hours have I been driving? How many properties did I add? Because I can land in any city and add 200 properties in a couple hours.
Yeah. And that's being consistent.
Yeah. Be consistent, bro.
Right. 100%. And just be ready, be consistent and be ready to make the sacrifices that let that consistency happen. Good question from Lawrence in Indiana. Sounds like he's newer to the space. He's curious about kind of like time of year flow of like deal flow. Obviously we're in the holiday season here. And a lot of times, like I've known investors who literally shut down or like have their marketing efforts over this time of the year. Curious your thoughts on how you guys approach different parts of the year at all. From that,
I'm gonna tell you something right now. Anybody that shuts their marketing off at this time of the year has a terrible first quarter.
Oh yeah.
Every single year, we never stop. Actually, one of our most active times of the year is Q1, Q4, and Q1 is our most active buying times of the year.
Yeah, you gotta be teeing up your momentum in quarter 4 for quarter 1 and quarter 1 through 4 of 2020 right now. I've been in business 12 years. I've never subscribed to the thought that I should shut down my business, during the holiday season or something like that. If anything, it gives me more opportunity if people are doing that to create more opportunities for my own business, right? So there's always going to be somebody that's selling a house, no matter what time of year it is. And there's always going to be somebody that's buying a house, no matter what time of year it is. So you got to keep that marketing machine running and constantly getting those calls out, those texts out, those voicemails out, making sure you're having conversations with sellers for sure.
Absolutely. No, I love that. And one of the things that I love too, where you guys went with that too, is like even if you're not getting the deal now, like you're setting up January, February, March by having that activity now. And so one of the things before real estate, I just have a sales background in a couple different businesses. And one of the things that happens so frequently with salespeople and sales organizations in general, especially in younger companies, is they get to the point where they do have a couple active deals they're working and they get really busy just focused on closing those deals. And they forget that there's a whole top of the funnel that you need to be filling with new opportunities and leads, whether that's driving, buying lists, sending the mailers, doing the RVM blasts, like feeding, that is the future feeding of your business. And if just because you get busy in other parts of it, you can't ignore the top of it, or else you're going to finish with whatever projects you have then. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I've got nothing to do, got no predictable revenue for the next couple of months, and I'm starting over like I'm a newbie again, essentially.
You just got to build your pipeline. You got to create a predictable business. Okay, I did 3 deals last month. What could I do to get to 6 deals? Well, you got to double down on the month before. So, because you when you close a deal, that doesn't mean you're going to close the deal the first 30 days, right? So when you first get a deal on a contract, sometimes you got title issues. Sometimes it's an IRS lane. Sometimes we got a deal right now where we had to get 9 signatures, right? And man, it's crazy. And like, it's a big deal. It's almost a $40K deal. But at the end of the day, we don't count on to hold our breath on it. We continue to push forward and continue to lock up things because we're building a predictable pipeline. And that's what you guys got to focus on, a predictable pipeline.
Talk to sellers every single day
that's
of your
key.
business.
That's key.
Yeah, don't look. You said it best, right? You got to fill the top of your funnel. You can only do that by making sure you're having seller conversations every single day.
Right. 100%. A couple of questions on like RVMs, cold calling, and texting. What are you guys' thoughts, preferences on those right now? The future of them a little bit, if you guys have perspective on like the laws and how those are being regulated now, and just how do you guys like tackling those things?
So here's the thing. A lot of people read articles, and the people that pass those articles around actually don't do any business. I don't care anything about what they're going to do. I'm caring about what's done.
Right.
And right now, all of those marketing methods are 100% legal if you do them correct. Okay. So if you do them correctly, they're fine. I'm not worried about what they're going to do in 2020, 2021. I don't care what law they're passing next week. If it ain't passed, I don't want to hear about it. So I say that. How we use RVMs, cold calling, and text messages is I have a conveyor belt type system in my business. I start with one market. I start with a list, and that list gets rinsed through the RVM machine until it gets less and less people. It goes through the text messaging machine till it gets less and less people. It goes through the cold calling machine till it gets less and less people. And it goes to the mail until it gets less and less people. Now, the reason why I put mail last is it's my most expensive marketing piece. So I want to try to contact these people on every single one of these type of marketing methods multiple times, 3 or 4 times in an RVM, 2 or 3 times in text messages, 2 or 3 times, 4 or 5 times in cold calling. And then if I can't, and that my list should get smaller every time I move. By the time I get to the end, I should have the smallest list of people that did not respond to none of those other marketing methods. And then all the way to the end, I'm then going to put in those people on a rotation on mail.
Awesome. No, I love that. And someone asked before you guys jumped on, someone was asking about where I recommend people to start. And a lot of times I tell people, like, you got to like figure out where your budget is. Cause like direct email is expensive. And like the last thing I want, like we occasionally people have come to DealMachine, she's like, hey, like I'm just starting. I'm like, what's your budget? And they're like, I got $50 a month. And I'm like, well, don't spend $50 a month on DealMachine. Like you start in areas that like your time is by definition at that point, while valuable, is less valuable than the money that you have. And so you need to like leverage your time, go hustle the data down and make it win that way. And so I love kind of how you mentioned it, just that flow of data or of leads and how to prioritize it.
Somebody's asking what RVMs mean. It's ringless voicemail. You can go to realestateinvesting if you want to see what that is. Yep.
It's kind of cool tech. The first time I heard it, I was like, oh, that's actually like pretty innovative from a process standpoint. Hey, speak a little bit to your prop stream implementation, Max Property Data. Someone was asking about that and the fact that you got a few extra features that aren't necessarily available to some of the other variations there, and just speak a little bit to that product, and as well as REI Rail too. I'd love for people to know how they can support you with the tools that you have out there to help them.
Yeah, I mean, I use tools like for RVM, I use REI Rail. I am part owner in that. With maxpropertydata.com, it's a version of PropStream that I work very closely with the team over there. And I try to get them to implement new updates prior to anybody else getting them. And I also get to have feedback with them. I get feedback with them. I'll be able to give them feedback on updates and things that they need to change. And sometimes they do stuff and release it on my version of the app before they release it with everyone else. But, you know, it's just a good thing to be able to have to find data. You can do a lot of things with it, but regardless of all the shiny tools, people buy stuff. They get DealMachine, they get REI Rail, they go use REI Skip, they go use PropStream. And what happens is they end up having, you know, $300-400 worth of recurring monthly tools, and then they don't do jack crap with it. or they get DealMachine and they only use 20% of the features. And I know you guys have an extensive library of videos that people can actually learn. If they just sat down one Sunday and watched all the videos, they would completely understand every single thing that DealMachine is able to do. But no, because somebody like myself or Chris or Antoine, we say, hey, DealMachine's great. They turn around and they don't, they turn around and buy it, but then take no action or don't learn the entire system that you guys created or anybody created. So then 3 weeks later, a month later, 2 months later, they're like, this stuff doesn't work. No, it's you didn't work. And that's what I would say. Like, if your budget is where you can only afford DealMachine, then go download DealMachine and study it. Like if it was your last dime and you had to make it work. Because I know Joshua knows, there's so many people that have been successful and their only marketing channel is driving for dollars.
Yep. I know multiple wholesalers that are multi-million-dollar a year wholesalers, and they've exclusively done that off of driving for dollars.
Yeah, and it's one of my first things I talk about that you need to do. One, it's a twofold. One, you get to actually drive around and learn the neighborhood and the market that you say you want to be good at. That's one. And then two, you get to see properties and add properties to a list that are never going to be on anything like PropStream because they don't have any red flags as absentee or this or that. You actually get to set eyes on a physically distressed property.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm going to bring on one of our attendees here, Patrick. He had a question and we wanted to see if he could come in and ask it. Patrick, you there?
I sure am.
What's up, man?
What's going on? I appreciate you guys taking this question for me. Basically, I wanted to get a little bit of help on a deal that I might have in the works. I had for the challenge. I want to thank you guys for doing this challenge, by the way. It's definitely enlightening, and I appreciate it all because this is my first time trying to do a wholesale deal. And as I was driving for dollars and I entered some of the information in, I sent out one of those free mailers I had, and I got a phone call actually today from one of the mailers. And basically, the lady on the other line was saying that she doesn't want to sell her house, but she had a rental property that she wanted to have someone partner up on with her. And basically, she was asking about somewhere between $55,000 and $60,000 to help with the foreclosure situation she has. The house will be should be going to auction on the 10th, and she spoke with her lender, and the lender would work with her. And basically, I'm thinking that's why she wants the $55,000 to $60,000.
Hey, Patrick, let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Is this a current rental for her? It sounds like.
Yeah, so she it's a current rental property that she's owned for about 12 years. And
so let me tell you the first thing I hear when you break that, when you're asking and framing that question.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a perfect owner finance opportunity.
Right.
She's already got a rental property, so that means that she wants some additional income. That was the intent, the reason that she's had this rental property for the past 12 years, right? So
right.
She's now in a pre-foreclosure situation, so she's probably behind on some payments. Do you know how much she's behind on the payments for?
I don't know, but based off of what I saw on the county records, it seems that she owes $178,000. And as far as the principal on the house, it was $100,000. The interest was like $15,000. So I'm thinking the rest of the fees, like the deferred payment and attorney fees and things of that nature, was the other $63,000.
Yeah. So first you got to figure out if it's a deal or not, right?
Right.
And
Right.
once you figure that out, there's a lot of information on how to do that. So you find out if it's a deal or not. Once you know if it's a deal or not, if it is, I would structure something like that as an owner finance opportunity, where you can go to her. Maybe your down payment, Patrick, is her delinquency. So let's say she's delinquent $5,000 worth of payments, right? So that could potentially be your down payment. You can structure the debt where you're making a monthly payment to her and covering that debt service for her on that mortgage. And now you've created maybe a lease option opportunity, or now you've created something where you can now go out and sell that property on terms to somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Basically, whatever her delinquency is, I would put that down, and then like she currently has a renter in there, so the cash flow on the property after payments was about a little over $500, and she was talking about a 50-50 split on that to be on the deed.
Yeah, so I wouldn't try to. I don't know that it would make sense to try to partner with her necessarily on a rental property.
I would never partner with anybody that's in a distressed situation.
Right.
That they did not pay. They have a tenant and they didn't pay the mortgage.
Right.
I'm not partnering. I'm not a partner.
And I mean, and also to Max's point, right? That means that she's been getting rental income.
Right.
And it sounds like she hasn't paid her mortgage. So it sounds like there might be even a deeper issue there that you might have to get to the bottom of also, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that deeper. Like, when I
sounds like I have some more conversation. It sounds like first and foremost. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, my only add on there is to the partnering thing is like people will ask you and stuff like that because they're motivated by what they think is the best interest of them. But if she's let herself get into this scenario, like it's just not someone I probably want to be like partnering with, because something's happened that's gotten her to this. Whether nothing to speak to her about a person or anything, it's just someone that I want to partner with on business, knowing that my entrance to talking to her is because she's in a distressed scenario about not paying her mortgage on the property. Like I don't really want to open a relationship with that context.
Yeah. I'd find out if it's a deal or not first, and then find out how you can take her out of that deal and create a profit opportunity.
100%. Because it clear there's like a need there for her to solve that, but you solve it on your terms, and basically kind of like we said earlier, like come to her and say, hey, this is how I can help. If that can work, great. If not, power to you. We can talk when it would work for you in the future.
Okay. And so in a sense, where I was trying to figure out, because I wanted to present this to an investor to see if I could possibly wholesale that opportunity.
Yeah, but you got to find out if it's a deal
yet. Yeah, you don't know any of the numbers yet.
Yeah, figure out if it's a deal first, and that's going to tell you what your exit is.
Okay. And that's pretty much why I was calling. I was trying to figure out if it was a deal.
But you can't know until you know the numbers, right? So you need to know the ARV. You need to know what balance is currently owed on the entire mortgage. It's in foreclosure, so there's what they call a reinstatement fee. You need to figure out what that is, and if the bank is even going to allow a reinstatement, or they're just calling the entire loan due. There's so many moving parts that you haven't had the answers to. There's variables, there's X, there's Y's, there's B's, there's C's that you don't have the answers to. You just identified somebody that's in a situation. And the time is on your side and not hers. So she needs to figure something out, because nobody wants a foreclosure on their record. People would rather walk away with nothing, which she didn't get nothing. She had a rental for 12 years. So that's an amazing income. But she did not pay the mortgage company. So I would definitely find out what the numbers are and then come back to the table to see if it even has an exit strategy. Yeah,
and one thing I would do is, with a seller like that, in that type of situation, if you've got rapport with her, ask her for a copy of her last mortgage statement. That's going to have a lot of information that you need to know on it. It's going to let you know potentially what that reinstatement amount is. It's going to let you know what the delinquency amounts are. It's going to let you know what the rate is on that loan as well, right? Maybe it's a subject to opportunity. There's so many different ways you can go to make that a deal. But you got to get some hard data first so that you can kind of really take a look at it. And like I said, that's going to deliver you to what the appropriate strategy is around making it a deal and kind of getting to that exit point as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to round out this so we can move on to a couple other questions too. Thank you, Patrick. I would say, and whatever these terms are that you get, like once you figure out these numbers, you can create a contract and you can wholesale any type of contract that's relevant to this. So you can wholesale it, just matter, like these guys are saying, like you just need to figure out what the deal actually looks like and get that in place. One follow we had a couple people asking about probate, and a couple of people in particular asking about your probate. How obviously it can be a difficult time on an emotional standpoint for family members. How long do you guys wait to tackle a list like that? Do you just go and persevere through it? And like, how do you address that kind of emotional side of the equation for them?
I think we'll get two answers from this. But I know you guys are going to go for another 9 minutes, but we're going to make this one our last one. We got to get to a dinner meeting right at 8.
Cool. Well, you guys are going to be late probably. So
yeah, it's cool though. A few minutes, not bad. But for me, we as soon as the file comes in, we're pretty much on it. We don't like to make a decision for somebody that if they're emotionally ready for it or not, they're going to tell you on the call.
Yeah, I agree with Max on that. I don't believe in waiting a certain period before you reach out to a probate. When you market to a probate, we don't market as if we know their personal circumstances or situation. We use the mail piece or the text or what have you that makes the best sense for what we're trying to achieve and getting that deal under contract. And it's the same thing. You build that rapport. And you let that person bridge that gap for you and let you know what their situation or pain point is. And you kind of figure out from there how you resolve that. But yeah, I don't make that determination up front. I would get the marketing out as you can and as you get that information, because speed is life in this business. If you don't get it out, somebody else is going to be doing it. There's only but so many probates in each area. So get in touch with folks. And if somebody is in emotional space, which is common in a probate situation, cultivate that into a strong follow-up opportunity where you're not just focusing on, hey, are you ready to sell the property? But just call somebody up and ask them how they're doing, right? They just lost somebody, right? Maybe you call them once a week and, hey, how you hanging in there, Joshua? Is everything going all right? Is there anything that I can do to make this an easier situation for you? That's how you build that rapport and turn a probate lead into a really solid follow-up that's going to be a good deal for you. Because when they get past that emotional situation, and they are truly ready to sell, they're going to call that person that's been checking on them and making sure they're all right.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we'll let you guys get out of here. Super, super appreciative of your guys' time.
Absolutely, man.
So much, man. I appreciate it.
And thank you for everybody being on here. And make sure you take action. Don't just download the app and do nothing. Download the app, watch all the videos so you know how to use it, and then go out, kick butt on the weekends or whatever time you have to drive.
100% agree.
Thank you guys, everyone. Appreciate it.
Have a good one, guys.
All right.
Bye. All right, guys. So I'm still going to try to hang out here for a few more minutes to try to answer some of the remaining questions that you guys have. Definitely say go thank Max on the social platforms, Instagram, Facebook. Obviously, like he said earlier, this is time out of his day. He literally just finished recording something, jumped into our chat, and is going to an important dinner meeting now for himself. And so really taking his time out of the day is really valuable. And so send your thanks to him, because obviously it's a big thing for him to go about doing that.
Awesome.
Couple of the questions that I had seen, someone asked really about the benefit of adding properties into DealMachine. Obviously, really just the process of finding the owner, getting in contact with them, whether that's through direct mail, through phone number, anything like that. I mean, that's really why we exist, is just for you to go faster to find the owner and faster to get in contact with them. And so that's the goal of everything that we do at DealMachine. So that's why you would be adding properties into DealMachine. Where do you research to find new markets? I think it was Antoine gave an answer earlier on the process. I forget the name of the tool. It's in our chat somewhere. I think it was called Sweet Spot or something like that. And he was using that to find active zip codes and active areas for investors. And so I don't know if that's the whole question there, because like you said, jobs, unemployment, population, that's probably something that weighs into the process. But I think in reality, they're using that just to look at, is there purchase activity? If people are buying properties in cash deals, it means there's investors there. So that's probably the most important thing that I would take a look at. Shantia on multifamily, I don't think there's any reason that you can't jump into multifamily directly. There's going to be other variables, especially bigger multifamily, that you're going to have to frame deals and less than here's the ARV, here's the repair costs and what my price is. someone earlier was asking, it might have been you asking about net operating income, taxes, and things like that. And those just weigh heavier in that evaluation process. I think one important thing to value is multifamilies, the bigger multifamilies like apartment complexes are valued based off of their net operating income. So if you find a place that has a net operating income of like, let's say $1 million a year, could be a lot less than that, could be more. If you can prove like, hey, the rental income is $200 a month less per unit than it probably should be, and it's going to take you a year to get to that, and then all of a sudden you're looking at like 15 or 1.5 million of net operating income, all of a sudden the value of that property goes up probably $3 to $5 million based off that extra $500,000 in year revenue. And so thinking about the bigger picture of that kind of stuff helps you know like how these people think about those bigger purchases of multifamily. There's going to be experts out there, people who are out there who are experts in like multifamily wholesaling. I would spend some time Googling around that and you'll find and learn a lot in the process. Danielle, you asked about how many calls you should be making daily. Like, how much time do you have? How quickly, how fast do you want to get deals? If you're making 50 calls a day and someone else is making 400, they're going to get deals that you're not. And so really it's a matter of how much time can you set aside for it, because ideally it's as many as possible. I think most people's hit rates is that I've spoken with, it takes 32 conversations to get a deal, and answering conversation rates are probably about 5%. And so you should be looking at probably 600 to 1,000 calls on average, somewhere in that range, to get a deal. And there's follow-ups involved in that. There's actual conversations that don't turn into anything. So it's just a matter of staying active and getting after it, and just know like if you're not doing more, someone else is. And so I know that's not like hey, like here's a number to hit. Sometimes it's not quite that simple, but I try to give you an idea of what those metrics might look like. What do you do as far as the address exposure to possible investors when you are trying to find a buyer? I'm not going to be the best expert for this. I would drop into Max's group or our Facebook group. What I would say is that what most people I know, that the people who do this really, really well is Warner mentioning filing a memo there to get it under so that it's on file with the state, so that if someone tries to go close the property without you, a good attorney is going to see that memo and say, we can't close this because someone else has a memo on it. I think your second point, Warner, vetting your investors is really the most important thing. So if you have a big list of investors, like let's say you traded a list of buyers with somebody, or you bought a list from some source, not necessarily my recommendation, but let's say you go that route, send the deal out with all the details as accurate as you can. Don't give them the address, and make those people have a conversation with you before you give them the address, so that you can vet them and so you know they're a trustworthy buyer. It's probably going to happen at some point to you, regardless of how good you are in that process. But that would be the best thing, is vetting your investors really well. Fire damage property, it's really, in the end, it's exactly the same as other properties. Like, what's the cost of getting it to a resellable condition? There are other more stringent things that come into play with fire damage. Like there's different processes and inspections that have to happen before the county will rule it habitable. And so it's really not that different than other opportunities. You're just evaluating, what is the property worth when it's in mint condition? What does it take to get to mint condition? And then you're basically trying to do that 70 to 80% of the ARV minus your repair costs minus your wholesale fee. And the equation doesn't really change. It's simply just another line item to weigh into the repair process. Can you wholesale a property owned by the city already? Usually not. From the people that I've spoken with, they're not going to accept a contract with an assignable contract. Caveat being, if you create a new LLC with you as a sole interest owner in it, and you get in a contract and you sell the LLC to somebody else, they now own that LLC and can close on the property, and it doesn't matter. Like there's nothing changing in the contract. You're just changing who owns the actual company, which then owns the asset. And so if you're wholesaling up to the city or a bank, those are ways people get around that frequently, is to do that. I'm not necessarily recommending making it more complex process for yourself, but that is a way to go about evaluating that process. What's the connection, if any, with REI Rail and DealMachine? I don't know if you mean like business connection or if there's like a technology connection there. Max runs REI Rail, or is one of the co-owners of it. We know Max really well from the last couple of years. There's no like direct business connection or anything like that. We don't have a direct connection with REI Rail from a technology perspective. Most people who are like skip tracing with REI Rail, a lot of times they'll just export their data to a CSV file from DealMachine and send it over to REI Rail to do that bulk and batch skip tracing and some of the RVM processing things that they power that we don't on our side. When and where will you be in Charlotte? Hannah, give me some accountability to make sure we let people know when I'm in Charlotte. It's going to be December 12th. I think it's like coffees and real estate. A friend of mine who runs a private equity firm is doing an event, and I'm going there to speak about scaling DealMachine and just really scaling driving for dollars. And so it's December 12th, early that morning. I don't know exactly where, but we'll let you know. Grace J on the owner collects insurance but still wants a higher value for the property. I mean, don't get mad at an owner for trying to get as much as they can get on a property that they own. Like, because if someone's going to buy at the higher amount, they own the property. Why would they not like hold out for the best thing for them? Like, so like, I think in general, like that's a space, like a lot of people get mad at sellers when they're like, hey, I don't want to sell this property to a wholesaler at a discount. Like if the property doesn't call for a discount, or if they're willing to go through the effort and the time it takes to track down a buyer who's going to pay to buy a higher amount, like what you're trying to do is get the property under contract so you can go give it to a seller at a higher amount. If that seller is willing to go through the effort to go find that person who's going to buy at a higher amount, don't get mad at them. Just explain how that's going to be a really cumbersome process and you make it a lot faster because this is what you do with all of your time. This isn't like them just like spontaneously saying, I've got this one property. You do this all the time. So you've got a bunch of people that you're talking to. And so try to demonstrate where you bring value to the process. Because if they have no time motivation and they have no time motivation, they don't care about doing the legwork to find the seller, like it doesn't matter if they're double dipping. I mean, like the fact that they got an insurance check on it is really entirely irrelevant to your evaluation for how to evaluate the value of the property. And so the biggest thing, go into the deal, say, hey, this is what I can do on the property. If they say, hey, I want to get more than that, okay, like, well, like I understand that as a seller. I definitely, in your position as a seller, would want to get as much for my property as possible. Based off what I'm seeing that needs to work, that needs to be put into the property with where we can get it in terms of value and the work and the time that needs to go into that. This is what I can do on the property. If that doesn't work for you, totally understand. I'll let you go ahead and do some more legwork. If you decide that, hey, like you're tired of waiting and are willing to accept this offer, get back to me and then follow up with it. It's really, you're trying to add value. And if you're not adding value to the seller, then you're not helping. Hide your investors' wholesale fee. Double closing, Patrick, is the only fully legal way to hide a wholesale fee. Sometimes you can do a blind HUD to hide the wholesaling fee from your seller, but your investors typically are going to see that wholesaling fee, and they're looking for it too. So they're definitely going to see it. If it's too big, double close it. If it's over 15, 20 grand, I strongly consider double closing, especially if you don't have a good relationship with your buyers. To the points earlier, that's why you vet your investors really well for people who don't care about that, because good buyers don't care what you're making on it. San Antonio or Austin, Texas. We've been in San Antonio a couple of times the last 6 months. I don't know when we're coming to San Antonio or Austin next, but definitely at some point, I'm sure we will be out there. Grace, I think you probably asked that follow-up while I was answering the previous question. Again, it doesn't matter if they've collected insurance on it or not yet. It doesn't change the value of the property. They just got to check for the damage and they can decide what it is they want to do with it. How long do you tell sellers it will take to sell their home? It depends on the property. I think in the end, like you're coming to be a quick solution. If you say, hey, like I need like 90 days to sell the property, sometimes people might not care about that, but in reality, you're not adding that much value if you say you need 90 days to close on the property, assuming like no title issues and things like that you have to work through that are outside of the realm of just finding an end buyer. So I think the best way to do it is if you can get as much time in the contract as possible, like 60 days, and then you give yourself, I think Max mentioned earlier, he does like a 10-day due diligence period. Something like that is a really good structure. The longer you can go, obviously the better is for you, especially if you're not that confident on the buyer's front yet. But I think if you're consistently not able to sell a property in like 30 to 45 days, chances are you're not getting good enough deals, and you need to kind of change your process on that side. Also doing LLC and then sell LLC. I don't know what you mean by that, Aziz Salah, on the LLC front. You can wholesale or wholesale foreclose property. If it's foreclosed and bank owned already, Stefan, you're going to have the problem that banks are typically not going to allow an assignable contract. So again, you would have to do the create an LLC route and then sell the LLC to someone else. That's how you would go about wholesaling essentially that. How would you wholesale a tax delinquent property? Tax delinquent doesn't change the equation. It's simply a matter of a line item that has to be paid off at closing. So it's $2,000 that goes to the county, or however much the tax delinquency is for. Let's say it's $2,000. Like, it's just money that comes out of the deal that goes to that, paying that before the seller gets any money. So it doesn't change your equation. It's simply the same as like a mortgage. So if someone has a mortgage or a tax delinquency on a property, it's just a matter of like, where does it fit in the structure? So if they owe $5,000, you just need to make sure that that's accounted for in the payout process of selling the property. If the property is not worth what the tax delinquency is, you're going to have to get more creative and essentially negotiating with the county on a lower tax payoff. And more often than not, that's a situation that's going to end up going to auction as well. I'm going to spend the next 3 or 4 more minutes, and I'm going to jump off too as well, just to give you guys some context. I don't want to just cold do it, but I'm going to jump off here pretty soon. On seller finance or subject to, do you still use a title contract or attorney? Is that actually legal? I'm going to leave that one. I'm not the expert there. I know a ton of people that do seller financing and subject to. I know it's very legal. I know there's a lot of complexity in the process to make it legal, or it can feel very complex. Once you get good at it, it's not as complex. I know the people that do it in a lot of different states. Some states I know are harder than others. Eddie Speed, a guy in Texas, if you want to take a course or if you want to learn about how to do seller financing or subject to really well, Eddie Speed, he's your man. Mitch Stevens, also a really good contact for that. If you know that game really well, you can create a lot of deals out of opportunities that don't seem like deals to traditional wholesalers too. So definitely recommend going that route and educating yourself there, because it's definitely, when people talk about knowledge mattering, that's a good example of it. But if you know how to work deals that way, you're going to get deals that people aren't. Nick, if the property is tax lien, it comes out of the seller's net proceeds, correct? I don't know if I didn't make that clear, but correct. Yeah, it comes out of the seller's net proceeds. It's really, as long as the rest of the deal works, it still works totally fine. When they might be ready to sell in 2-3 months, contact them in 4 weeks, is what I would do, if not a little bit faster than that. Every 4 weeks, if they're saying 2 or 3 months, in reality, 2 or 3 months is not that far away. And if they actually want to sell in 2 or 3 months, you should really be trying to get this in their contract now and saying, okay, if you want to sell in 2 or 3 months, let's get a contract so it can close in 3 months or whatever the time period is. And you're not like deciding to do it, and then it's another 2 or 3 months from there. So that's kind of how I would address it. The toll-free number on a card matter. Max was really King Richard. Max was just like, don't use toll-free numbers. Was pretty adamant about not doing it. He was like, invest in a local phone number at all costs, whether it's call row or something like that. He was pretty assertive on that front. So I'm gonna go ahead and yield to his expertise. I think there's pros to trying to get the toll-free number out there, but he was very adamant. Don't cut costs. If you're going to be that aggressive going to multiple markets, do it right. If I click send mailer twice by accident, is really going to send multiple mailers to one property. that question about mailers, we're going to mail a property once. If you just click it twice, reach out to our team if there's a specific thing that you're referencing to that too, because I'd want to take a look at exactly what you mean there so that I'm not saying something incorrect. So you're a wholesaler. When you tell what verbiage do you use when you tell the seller you are a wholesaler? My verbiage is, I have a network of investors who purchase properties for the price you want to sell, then give me a finder's fee. Is that good? I think that's fine. I think you can just say, hey, I'm an investor in the area. Sometimes I might buy a property myself. More often than not, I oftentimes team up with other investors who are wanting to be involved in the contract as well. And I think that's fine. I don't think you have to go all the way through to clarify that they're going to buy it at your price and then giving you a finder's fee. But I think your way is also fine. All right, 2 more questions. In my state, we can sign purchase agreement with new LLC and make it assignable. Then we sell to another investor of the LLC who closes at purchase agreement price. Wasn't a question, so I won't say anything. But yeah, that's not even the purchase agreement doesn't have to be assignable in that case. If you're selling the LLC, it's a totally separate transaction of owning an LLC and selling it than it is having an assignable contract and assigning it. My question about contract download, I attended twice and got a 404 error. I'm not sure which contract you're talking about, Cherry, unfortunately. Who is that sub 2 training resource? Eddie Speed and Mitch Stevens. They both know sub 2 and seller financing really well. Mitch Stevens is more on the seller financing side, like he purchases properties and seller finances them out to buyers. Sub 2, Eddie Speed. Can the purchase agreement be the end all be all of a deal? I don't know what that means, Patrick. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. Is this live going to be saved on YouTube? Yes, we're going to put this on YouTube later. All right, one more question, seriously. If you have buyers trying to go around you, say this deal is so good, I might jump on it myself, scare them. Don't go for the buyer who pays the most, find a buyer who works the quickest. That's a good comment, and I agree. I think it's not 100% the way to evaluate it, just if they happen to pay quicker. I mean, if you're going to make 20 more grand if they go a little bit slower, like evaluate each situation individually and figure out what you value the most and what the seller values the most. Because this, like, maybe it's like the seller wanted to close tomorrow, but they're like, well, if you give me 4 extra grand, I'll close in 20 days, and then you're going to make 16 extra grand. Like, just look at the equations, talk to everyone involved, and figure out what's a win-win that can work for everybody. When did I get my first deal, and how did you structure it? I will end on this question officially. I got my first deal about 1.5 years ago in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was driving for DealMachine. I added it was my 173rd property, I think, that I added. It was in Garner, North Carolina. It was a property that I sent 3 mailers. Third mailer, she called me the day of, and she said, I just quit my job spontaneously yesterday. I don't want to make my next mortgage payment. I'm moving back in with my parents. So looked at the property, got under contract a couple hours later, got under contract at 118. Decided, I brought it down with a friend who helped with the financing of the deal. We decided to flip it. And so I managed the whole flip process. So I've actually got a blog post on the DealMachine site that you guys can review more about the process that I went through for that. But it worked out really well. I'll say this though. So it worked out well. We bought it for 118, put 32 in, sold for 215, had to come down to 212 because of a lower than ideal appraisal by the lender. So we came down to 212 and sold at that. I think all in all, after agent fees and everything factored in, it was about a $47,000 profit, somewhere in there. Worked out great. However, if I had bought the house, done the flip, done the renovation, rented it, refied out, I could have had a property that I own now that's also appreciated another 15 to 20 grand since when we sold it, at least. Could have refied tax-free cash out of probably $10,000 to $20,000 of money out after I paid for all the money in, and I'd be cash flowing on a property about $500 to $700 a month that I would own, essentially not outright, but I'd have a mortgage on it. But I'd be cash flowing on a property that I also brought money out of. So I'd have more cash today, and I'd have not more cash. I have more cash today because I did the flip, but I'd have almost as much cash and I'd have a rental property here. So when I talk about why knowledge matters in this space, that's why. Because if I had known or thought about not just being like one track minded on flipping and making money that way, it would have been a much better deal for me long term. But it was, again, the best scenarios to learn in are still ones where you won. So I think I won in that deal. Like it was a good profitable deal for us. Is just knowing what I know now would have tackled it in a much different way. All right, guys, I am gonna shut this down now. Appreciate all of you for coming out. Like we said earlier, that we will put all of this on YouTube at some point, probably early next week. If you've got more questions to ask and follow up with, reach out. Our customer support's there. Reach out to me. My email is josh@dealmachine.com. I will answer stuff as fast as I can typically. And just let us know how we can be helpful. Thank you guys again. And again, give Max a thank you for his time, because it is really valuable when we bring experts like that in. And so give him a thank you.